Hey there, welcome to another review, this time of the 2016 animated comedy Sausage Party. Sausage Party is a film that I actually enjoyed. I was entertained by it. I didn't love the film. I would have to say on the second time around, it didn't hold up as well, but I did enjoy the movie. I was always intrigued by the idea behind it. It sounded like something different for once. I mean, when's the last time we ever saw an R-rated animated comedy? An animated film for adults in a Pixar sort of vein? We haven't seen anything like that. I can't even really think of anything, and definitely in terms of a CGI animated Pixar style film. So the film is fairly unique when it comes to that. And I think the main thing that I have the main thing that bothers me when it comes to this movie is it just isn't very funny. Now, it does have its moments where I do chuckle and I do uh, snicker a few times, but it's not laugh out loud hilarious, and it honestly relies way too much on gross out and scatological, not necessarily scatological humor, but genital humor. There's a lot of genital humor, there's a lot of just sex jokes and just really cringe-inducing food puns. So it's one of those films that if that's your sense of humor, then you're probably going to enjoy it, and find it hilarious and probably like it more than I did. But if you don't really like that type of humor and that really isn't your cup of tea, then I think it's going to get old and the jokes are going to start to expire. Now, but that being said, I still find the film to be a really entertaining movie. It's fast paced, it's 88 minutes, it goes by at a really quick pace. It's got some great voiceover work by Seth Rogen, Kristen Wiig, Michael Cera, which really surprised me because I'm so used to Michael Cera just being terrible in almost anything he's in, or just playing the same character. Here, he was completely unrecognizable as the voice of Barry. And Seth Rogen, of course, is your lead, and Frank Wienerton, and he does a good job. I mean, he plays a typical sort of stoner character he normally plays, but this time he's a hot dog, an anthropomorphic hot dog. Jonah Hill has a brief role, but he's just in it for a little bit. James Franco was good as the druggie. Uh, Paul Rudd was really unrecognizable as this nerdy manager of Shopwell's named Darren. And Nick Kroll, I think, honestly stole the show as Douche, who's an evil douche. That's what he is. He's an actual douche, a feminine hygiene product who sounds like some douchebag from the Jersey Shore. And he's essentially the film's villain. And I enjoyed his little banter back and forth with the other food products and the other products in the store when he says something and then like the other products will. So for example, he's talking about an idea that he might have to maybe to help fix himself, and he's this light bulb, and then a light bulb shows up in the background. I was like, yeah. It's like, I'm not talking to you, light bulb. And then there's another one where he's talking about he's having a conversation, and then he says the words queso, and then like a can of queso shows up and says, "Yeah," and it's like that's a fucking stretch, and you know it, queso. So there's some funny moments like that. Um, Probably the best gags for me were the satirical elements in this, which I thought were brilliant. The screenplay is definitely one of the stronger points of the film, even though it could have been a lot funnier. I still have to say, Kyle Hunter, Ariel Shafir, Seth Rogen, and Evan Goldberg, I think they did a solid job. I mean, it's not spectacular. It's not a spectacular work by any means, but I think the bits of satire when it comes to satirizing religion, I thought was just genius. Because that's what the main focus of the plot is hinged around, is these products in the store, they are under the belief that once they get taken by the consumers, they're going to go into the great beyond and form of heaven. but really it's hell, and they're going to be eaten or used or all of that. And so it becomes this sort of journey where our lead character, played by Seth Rogen, the Frank Wienerton, and he's trying to reveal the truth to all of the people in the store. And of course, there's people who don't want to hear it, and so on, and it leads to conflict. But it leads to a really great dark finale, which is really well animated. There's a lot of really fast-paced animation that worked really well. It was very fluid, and I really loved the last half of this film. I thought it was just a very exciting, fun, fast-paced last half of the movie. And I loved how dark and absolutely fucked up it was. So that's another feather that this film definitely does have in its cap. Um, and the voice actors, they all do their jobs respectably well. It's just, like I said, I think the script could be stronger, but at the same time, it is a strong suit. It just could be stronger. It just could get a little bit more juiced up, so to speak, especially with its humor. Um, the direction by the two directors is very animated, and it has this very good vibe to it. It also has a good flow, and there's cinematic shots that play out that I thought were pretty impressive for an animated movie. See, animation direction is different than film direction. There's a lot more. It's kind of, I would probably say, make an argument it's more difficult because you're not dealing with real actors and you're not dealing with a set. So you have to try to create a fluid movement and trying to create a cinematic feeling with just animation, with CGI. And so the directors do manage to put their stamp on the film, though. One thing that definitely stands out, though, is the quality of the animation, which is great for a $50 million budget. But there's also something that sticks out like a sore thumb in regards to this animation. And you probably already heard about it, but I think it bears repeating, that there were people involved who worked on the film, a lot of that were not paid for their overtime work. The producers for this film, Sony Animation, they essentially forced young aspiring animators, or just aspiring animators, period, to essentially work for free in order to get the animation up to the standards that they wanted on such a low budget. So any animator who decided that they were not going to work overtime for free, they were threatened with being essentially blackballed and essentially blacklisted from Hollywood and blacklisted from any other animated projects. So there were a lot of animators who actually were left off the end credits, who were not credited for their work on the film, which I honestly find abhorrent. Absolutely abhorrent. It puts a stain on this film that hurts it a little bit because it's hard not to look at this animation and be like, wow, it's so amazing and it looks fantastic and it's got all these bright, vibrant colors and the details are exquisite. And how were they able to do this for $15 million? Well, the reason is because they essentially screwed over a lot of animators. That's why. They made them work without pay and do overtime without pay and threatened them with blacklisting. And it's just a very ugly thing when it comes to this movie. It's nothing to throw a party over, that's for sure. And it does. It puts this very dark pall over this entire production. And it's too bad because this is a very lighthearted, fun movie. And it is an entertaining movie, and I do enjoy it. And it's definitely a film that I would not mind picking up on DVD or Blu-ray when it comes out. I don't know if it's come out already or not, but I definitely would not mind adding this film to my pantry, so to speak, because, it's kind of got that sort of junk food vibe. It's not necessarily good for you. There's some elements to it that, don't really sit well, but for the most part, it's still tasty. And the main issues I have with it are just very minor. It's well, not necessarily minor. I mean, it's a comedy, and I didn't think it was that fun. I didn't think it was funny enough. So that's a problem because a comedy is supposed to be funny, but then again, humor is subjective, so it's not like just because I don't find it funny or funny enough that you won't find it hilarious. So there are a lot of clever things, like I said, the satire elements, the dark humor, that you saw in the trailer, the sight of these groceries and these foods just in some sort of Saving Private Ryan situation is morbid but also hilarious. The stuff where you have baby carrots getting eaten by humans and while they're screaming is dark but hilarious. Because it's irreverent. It's ballsy. I like that about the film. It's a pretty ballsy movie, but at times it goes a bit too far, especially at the end with the giant orgy scene, which I honestly thought was way too much. So, and that honestly kind of encapsulated the reason why I didn't find it funny enough because it relied too much on the sex jokes and the too much on the gross out humor and I just there's a place for that, but it just I don't know. The contrast with the animated food and the CGI and the Toy Story type of plot just didn't work as well as it might have if they curbed back on some of that stuff. I understand. I'm fine with it being dirty, a dirty Pixar animated comedy. I'm fine with that. But I just thought went a bit too far to the point where it just wasn't funny anymore. It was just gross. Um, but there were some moments that I really did like. For example, I loved the scene close to the end where you have Meatloaf, an actual Meatloaf, which looks like the singer Meatloaf singing the song "I Would Do Anything for Love, but I Won't Do That." And it's just the image of Meatloaf singing, "I'd do anything for love, but I won't do that." It was very very endearing. I really liked that. That was a lot of fun. So there were some nice song gags here, and some of the food puns I didn't mind. I liked the opening song that all the food sang when the store opens up in the beginning of the film. I thought that was pretty hilarious, actually, and it was actually a pretty catchy song. So, yeah, there were a lot of elements in this film's periodical table, so to speak, that were pretty nutritious and delicious. But there were some that were stale and didn't taste that good, and ultimately brought the film down a little bit. But overall, I enjoyed the film. I don't know what to say about the movie, except if I was going to rate it out of 5 stars. I would give Sausage Party 3.5 out of 5 stars. An above average, entertaining comedy with some good animation, some nice voice acting, some genuinely clever moments. Solid screenplay, but it could be funnier. So it's an animated comedy that isn't as funny as it could be, but at the same time, it's got its heart in the right place. And despite the backstory with the animators getting the shaft, I think it's worth a watch, especially if you were at all curious about the film and if you liked the people who were involved with this movie, Seth Rogen and Jonah Hill and the rest of the gang. Then yeah, I definitely do recommend this one. But anyway, yeah, thanks for watching my review, and as always, I will see you guys later. See ya.